Well, hello there. Welcome back to another episode on the Virtual Toast server. Today I've got something a little bit different for you. It's an informational video letting you know what I've done with Spawn on the server. I've set up a spawn system where I have the world spawn separated from the location where I want new players to appear when they first log onto the server. And I'll just go through the way I've done that. There are a few reasons why I want to do that. One is that with world spawn separated from my main spawn town, I'm free to build some lovely big iron farms or anything else that wants to be in the spawn chunks without ruining the look of my spawn town with big things floating up in the air and horrible things around the place. It can all look nice and tidy. There's no grass here. I'm over ocean. So we can play with passive mob farms because there'll be no passive mobs spawning in this area at all. And we can do something which is more interesting that you can't do with a default world spawn, and that is we can effectively put world spawn inside a building. So when a player spawns onto the server for the first time, they will spawn on the center block of this bedrock. I've done that by setting the spawn radius on the server to 0. There's a game rule for that, and that means they'll spawn on that exact block. When they do, they are teleported, if they're a new player, to a spot that I want to put them, and I can teleport them inside a building. Now, normally when you spawn onto a server, you spawn to a random location within so many blocks of the actual world spawn block, and you go to the highest solid block. So if you set spawn while you're inside a house, new players will actually spawn on the roof of the house. So anyway, with this system I can get people to spawn inside buildings, so that's another interesting thing. Now there's a number of ways that you can appear here in this world, 3 ways actually. First is if you're a new player on the server, you'll obviously appear at the default world spawn, which is this block right here. Second is if you were an existing player or returning player and you've set your own spawn with a bed and then the bed's been removed. When you die, the bed will be marked as missing, you've got no spawn point, and you'll reappear at world spawn, which is right here. And the third way is if you're an existing player on the server and you happen to be flying around or whatever, and you happen to come across this spot and you land on it or to stand on it. So those are the 3 situations I've had to deal with, and I've done that with command blocks. And I'll put the actual code that I've used in the command blocks in the description of this video just down below. But I'll just show you what I've done. It's a little bit interesting, took me a while to do. I'm not a command block expert by any means. I'm just your average player that's just been mucking around with things. I used to do a bit of programming when I was younger. I've done basic program, I got quite into that. I've done C programming. I was certainly not an expert, but I did a lot of mucking around with that. And I've done some programming study, so I sort of know the basics of layouts and how programs flow and that sort of thing. Command blocks, that sort of information is useful when you're working with these. So I've set up a repeating command block there and a number of chain ones. As I said, the code that goes into these will be in the description of the video down below. There's also a couple of things that need to be run. One is a game rule to set the spawn radius to 0. You don't have to do that, but it just makes it easier. I set it to 0, and then the teleport detects a distance that they're from the player is actually from this spot. So if they happen to spawn 10 blocks away, they can actually spawn in the air over here and fall to their deaths or whatever. So I've set it to 0. They land right here when they spawn, and then the command blocks are initiated. I've also created an objective called login death, which is a death count. Death count will increment when you die on the server. So if you return to the server after dying, death count will have login death will have a value of 1, which we can then test for and reset it back to 0. So if you die again, it gets incremented again. And the other one is if you happen to fly past and land on here, we need a tag on you to say whether you are a returning player or a new player, so it can exclude you and not teleport you, because I don't want people using this as a free teleport back to spawn. That would not be good. Okay, so what I've got here is a repeat command block, always active, unconditional, and what I've got in it is scoreboard players tag for all players who are in a radius of 5. I could probably reduce that, but I've got it set at 5. Who are in game mode 0, so they're a regular player. So if you're an admin and you're in game mode 1, this won't apply to you. And if you have a tag, or if you don't have a return player tag set, then it's going to add you as a target, a valid target. So I'm not an admin, I'm in game mode 0, or I am an admin in game mode 0, and I'm not a return player, so it's my first time on the server, then I'm a valid target. So it sets that. The second one will do something similar. Scoreboard players tag all players who are not return player, add return player. So now I am a return player, but I'm already a target. This one, scoreboard players tag all players within a radius of 5 who are in game mode 0, whose login death score is a minimum of 1. In other words, they've just returned here after dying, so they've respawned at the world spawn because they've died. They're a valid target, so we add a tag of target to them. And then scoreboard players set all players login death minimum of 1. So if their login death is 1, we set it back to 0. So we've just set the target for 2 different options. Then what we do is we set the spawn point of all players who are a valid target to the place that I want it to be, and that's in the middle of my spawn town inside a building. We then TP all players who have a tag of target to that position, and we then scoreboard players tag all players who have a tag of target. We remove the tag target, and that's the whole system, and that just runs constantly in the spawn chunks. Where are we? Bedrock. Let's put this back so nobody can muck with it. That's all good. So what I'll do now is just test it, and the way I can test it, let's get rid of that, is to set myself as a target. So I'll just get more than 5 blocks away, and I'll go scoreboard players. What do I do next? Scoreboard players tags. Scoreboard players tag player. You can see how good I am at this. Scoreboard players tag at P nearest player, that's me. Tag name. Whoops, that's not right. Add target. So that just made me a target, and because I was a target, I got teleported immediately to spawn town, and here I am. So now if I go scoreboard players tag list, no, that's not right either. Scoreboard players tag at P list. You can see that I am now set as a return player, but I'm not a target. So if I go back there now in game mode 0, because I'm a return player, I'm not going to be set as a target. And that's basically how it works. So new players on the server, when they log on for the first time, they won't see the fact that they appear over there. All they'll see is the fact that they appear here inside a building in the spawn room. And hopefully they can read some information on the rules and that sort of stuff on the server, and where the forum is and that sort of thing, and then they can venture outside and experience the server itself. So there you go. As I said, information in the description of the video down below. If you like this video, please leave me a like. Please, please, please. If you really like it, please subscribe, because when you subscribe, you help me out. Thanks very much for watching. I'm Coptotermes. Bye-bye.